David with Fantasy Draft Assistant, and in this video I'm going to show you how to set up the draft tracker. So here I've launched Fantasy Draft Assistant, and to launch the draft tracker you just go to the General tab and you click Draft Tracker. So this is the option screen for the draft tracker, and this is where you can set up the specifics about the draft that you're about to do. So you can see here on the left side we have the type of drafts, and there's 5 different kinds of drafts. Your snake and your standard are your most common, the snake being where the first pick in the first round picks last in the second round, and so on. And the standard draft, the players pick the same order in each round. And there's also custom order, which I'll get to more in a minute. Ad hoc draft, which will actually ask you which team picked each player as you go through a draft. And then auction draft, which is where people bid on drafts. There's also settings here for how many teams are in the league, what pick is your pick, and the number of rounds that are in the draft, and also options here for keepers. And then you can click this Teams tab and it will show you here are the number of teams. Right now I have it set to 10 teams. You can obviously change that to how many you need. And then on the Teams tab you can type in the names, name of team 1 if you choose, or if not, it's by default listed the number of teams, and then put your team name here. So I can put in my name there, and those will show up in the draft. And there's also the positions tab, which positions are in your draft, and it loads by default as standard: 1 quarterback, 2 running back, 2 wide receivers, and so on. Pretty easy to change those numbers. If you're in a 3 wide receiver league, you can just change that. If you use a flex position like running back, wide receiver, you simply click both positions here on the left side and click add. Now you can see I've got a running back, wide receiver position, and then I can use the arrows for where it shows up in your list of positions. So those are the basics you'll be using for pretty much any type of draft. If you have a certain type of draft, for instance, if you need keepers, you can click here and say enter keepers per team, and now we get a keepers tab on which you'll see here's the teams in the draft, and here are the players that are in your ranking. So on this screen you will simply pick which team and then select the player and click add, and you can see on the right side now it shows that my team has Adrian Peterson as a keeper. So you would do this for each player and team, and then those players will not be available in the available players of your draft, and they will show up automatically on the teams that you select. And finally, on the General tab there's custom order. There's certain types of drafts that it's hard to cover in either of these other types of drafts. So if you do custom order, you'll get a custom order tab, and on that you'll see here are the rounds, and by default it will populate those as a snake draft. You can change that to a standard draft if you would like, and then I can expand on the right side here and it'll show me for a general snake draft here are the order of the picks in round 1. Well, if a certain team has, say, I gave up my first round pick for that keeper, I can simply delete my first round pick, and now as I go through the draft in the first round I won't have a pick, and all the other 11 teams will have a pick. And you can certainly do this for each round. If I have an extra pick in round 3, say, I can on the left side say round 3, whatever pick it happens to be, and my team, and say add, and now you see I have an extra pick here in round 3. So you can simply delete or add or even move. If that was the wrong, I can click this arrow and move that pick up or down and set up any order for any draft that I choose. And finally, if you were going to do an auction draft, On the General tab, you simply select Auction Draft, and it will ask you what's the budget for each team. Generally, it's around $200, but you can certainly change that to your needs. So as you can see, if you have any kind of non-standard draft, there could be quite a bit of setup to go on here. So you can always do all your setup ahead of time, and then with this top section here, you can click the Save button. You give your draft file a name, and you can save off your draft, and then when it becomes draft time, you simply launch Draft Tracker, click the load button, pick that file, and it will load all the options you've saved. That's also great for doing mock drafts, as it will save your team names and your picks and everything, so that you can always just keep loading the same draft file and launching the draft. That will also work if you saved a completed draft. You'll see here at the top there's an option to restart the draft from the beginning. So even if you forget to save it before you've launched it, you can always launch later and save, and then come in and load that file and restart from the beginning. For more information on using the Draft Tracker, please see my other videos. Thank you for watching.